The most important feature of any object isn't what it's made of, it's what it does. Take a chair, for example. Its function is simple: to sit on. Whether it's made of wood, metal, glass, or stone doesn't really matter, right? As long as it does the job. In the same way, functionalism within the philosophy of mind asks, if a mental state performs its function, does it really matter what it's made of? Functionalism is one of the most popular views within modern philosophy of mind. It's a version of the identity theory which claims that whatever mental states are, they're identical to brain states. Whether it's pain, attraction, or joy, each mental state corresponds to a particular brain state. But there's a big problem within the traditional identity theory. In humans, neurologists have found that pain correlates with what is called C fibers firing. This gives us a good ground to conclude that C fibers firing is pain. And it is a strong identity claim, like saying water is H2O. But the problem arises when we discover that there are animals that seem to experience pain but lack C fibers. If we equate pain with C fibers firing, then any animal that doesn't have C fibers could never experience pain, which is absurd. If we meet an alien, it likely wouldn't have C fibers, yet it might still be able to feel pain. This issue is sometimes referred to as the problem of multiple realization. But this is where functionalism comes in and saves the day. One of my favorite philosophers, David Lewis, sketched out this idea in his paper, An Argument for the Identity Theory. The definitive characteristic of any experience as such is its causal role. The definitive causal role of an experience is expressible by a finite set of conditions that specify its typical causes and its typical effects under various circumstances. So here's the thing. Pain is simply whatever occupies the causal role of pain. Just like the chair we discussed earlier, it doesn't matter what it's made of as long as it serves its function. The same goes for pain. It doesn't matter if it's C fibers firing, alien fibers firing, or even computer code. If it performs the pain job, it qualifies as pain. To truly understand this, we need to explore what we mean by function. This is often described in terms of inputs, internal connections, and outputs. For instance, stepping on a Lego is an input which causes pain. This in turn might cause me to react by jumping up and down or rubbing the sore spot. But also it might create an internal connection leading to further mental states, like anxiety. This is a simplified explanation, but the point is that this theory not only addresses the problem of multiple realization, but also explains how certain mental states can cause other mental states. This theory is indeed amazing and ingenious, if you ask me, but unfortunately, like all theories, it has problems. To begin with, it seems that we still lack a full explanation of consciousness. Hey guys, it's me from the future. I just wanted to add a couple of things. There are two very famous arguments against functionalism, both of them posed by the one and only Ned Block in his paper, Troubles with Functionalism. Firstly, let's imagine a robot which has been programmed to react a certain way if it hits a piece of Lego. This robot even have code fibers, signals which causes the robot to react a certain way. But importantly, it reacts only according to its program. So when the robot hits a piece of Lego, it seems as though a functionalist is committed to say that that the robot is in pain, while intuitively we would simply deny that, right? Because it's only acting according to its program. There's no pain involved here. But this is actually sort of a strawman fallacy, since it characterizes functionalism too crudely. A functionalist would simply reply by saying that pain is not exhausted by one type of stimulus, the Lego, or by one type of output, the reaction, or even by one type of internal connections. The function of pain just isn't that simple. Pain can be caused, an input, by a myriad of things, and there are so many different ways of reacting to it. And there are also many different possible internal connections to pain. Therefore, even a functionalist here would conclude that our robot is not in pain, because it would react exactly the same way every time it gets exactly the same stimulus. But now, let's turn to another issue. Here comes a rough explanation of the problem he posed. Let's say we take this unnecessary chunk of meat out and replace it with a large group of very small people. These people have low intelligence, but are trained to simulate my brain's function precisely. Let's also imagine that there are about 86 billion of these small people, one for each neuron in my brain. When a particular stimulus comes in, each of these small individuals follows specific instructions to mimic my brain's behavior. If you observed me externally, you wouldn't notice any difference between me with my actual brain and me with my homunculus system brain. For a functionalist, there is no difference since both systems perform the same causal role. But intuitively, we feel there's something missing in the homunculus system, namely a qualitative feeling or experience. Block writes, "What makes the homunculi-headed system a prima facie counterexample to machine functionalism is that there is a prima facie doubt whether it has any mental states at all, especially whether it has what philosophers have variously called qualitative states, raw feels, or immediate phenomenological qualities." This is a major problem for functionalism, because it seems strange to think that a qualitative experience could somehow emerge from these individuals. It doesn't seem as anyone would feel anything. But why not? Perhaps our intuition tells us this only because we're used to thinking of mental states emerging solely within carbon-based brains. Why couldn't a large group of people sending signals back and forth produce an experience? We'll dive into this more in the upcoming episode about computationalism. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to subscribe. In the end, I think this is a big problem for functionalism. Although functionalism is an attractive position, but if you're not satisfied with it, maybe Descartes' substance dualism could be an option. If you're curious, check out this episode here.